Go down the pipe here a little bit and just kind of introduce yourself real quick, Jeremiah.
Hey, Jeremiah Anderson-Kappa. That's Hawaiian, not Greek, not Mexican or Puerto Rican or anything like that. I get it all the time. Army for 13 years, infantryman, ended as a platoon sergeant, E7, running a bunch of stuff. Had first half of my career was very operational, so deployments, infantry stuff, cool, bang, bang. And then the back half was very diplomatic. Arlington National Cemetery, did some stuff with the Office of the Chief, the Chief of Staff of the Army, Pentagon. So just a variety of things. That's what started my career working for the Office of the Chief. A lot of logistics, a lot of international movements, which then helped me understand all the stuff I did operationally and how that tied into supply chain. So that's where I got started. Not from Denton, from all over the place, military brat. Also moved around in the military, obviously. But love it here. Been here for 5 years, graduated last year, 2020, December 2024. Um, and currently working for the defense industry, Lockheed Martin as an account manager. I love it. Keeps my brain busy, and that helps keep me level. So that's about it for me.
Yeah, Paul Newbold, originally from Cincinnati. I did go to West Point, graduated in 2018. Branch Field Artillery, and spent about just 5 years serving out my commitment there. Stationed down at Fort Hood for the majority of that with 3CR. We unfortunately were the unit that went through the Vanessa Guillen situation during COVID. Took us off the patch chart. But really learned a lot about leadership during that time as they had a congressional review and a lot of things that came down the pipe to ensure we were leading correctly, as they found out we were the highest suicide rate and lowest retention in the Army as a unit, as we were deployed for 20 plus years, once every calendar year, at least 1 month for those calendar years. Went to Triple C, came back, ended up getting out. My daughter was born, and really didn't like the thought about not being there with her. Also didn't enjoy the fact that I'd been doing a lot of training. The analogy I make is like you're practicing for football and you're not able to actually do something about it. So I was sick of training, so I ended up getting out. I thought I was going to go into finance. By a roundabout way, was introduced to Jimmy Shoppa at Shoppa's and Preston, and they saw something in me and were gracious enough to bring me on board as more of a kind of catch-all position. Learned the business, understood customers and how we support them, which finally led me to use department manager. And then I just recently absorbed what used to be our corporate headquarters over at Grand River in Euless, and it's been a challenge, but a really fun one. So.
My name's Kelsey Smith. Spent 10 years in the Marine Corps as an infantryman, deployed to Iraq 4 times. My last duty station was at Quantico at the basic school, where I trained newly commissioned officers. It was there where I got kind of my feet wet in instructing and being in front of folks like that. Was medically retired out. Not from this area either. Grew up in the Midwest, Kansas and Missouri, but my wife's folks had moved here, and thinking of marketability, I could go back to the Midwest where like our biggest pull is a 3M plant, or come to DFW, and so that was kind of a no-brainer. Wanted to make sure our kids were close to a set of grandparents, so came to UNT. I'd actually honestly never heard of UNT until I was getting ready to get out. I was talking to my executive officer, who's a Sam Houston State alum. And I said, sir, I'm looking at these different colleges. I see SMU, I see TCU, and there's this UNT. And he said, well, if you want a really great degree and not pay a bunch of money, you should go to UNT because that's a great school. So I started looking at it. His wife actually helped me write my application letter. She was a high school English teacher, and came here in 2013, graduated December of 2016 with a degree in organizational behavior and human resources management. Since then, I've held a couple of different jobs, worked in a veterans nonprofit for a couple of years, worked for CubeSmart, self-storage company, for 5 years as a divisional trainer, corporate trainer, and then a training manager. And then most recently also joined the Shoppa's crew. So I'm sort of supply chain adjacent, and I'm learning a lot about supply chain and all the cool stuff that goes in with it. And I'm there now as their director of learning and development.
I'm going to throw in a little known, well, a couple of us know this fact. So where I used to live, where I used to live, I got a new neighbor, and I'm standing at my driveway one day, and the new neighbor comes out to his driveway, and the driveways are right next to each other. I start talking to him, find out he's like retired military, got out of the military, decided to go back to school. I said, "Oh, where you going? UNT? What are you majoring in? Logistics." Jeremiah used to be my neighbor, so we were neighbors for a few years until I decided to escape because my kids left and I didn't want that house anymore. So I wish I was still there to have Jeremiah as my neighbor, though. Okay, so first thing is, and this is sort of like for those that spent the time in the military and then decided to go to school kind of thing, right? It's a tough thing. My brother did it, which actually made my brother and I go to school at the same time, even though we were 4 years apart, because he served and then decided to go back to school. And from him, for a disruption, is he actually caught during his semester because he got out and he was inactive reserves. He got called back for Desert Storm, and so literally in the middle of his semester, he had to quit and he got called back. He went to North Carolina for a week of training. And if you remember that, well, some of you may not even been born, but the Desert Storm ground war lasted roughly a week at best, right? And so by the time he got done with his training, it was over and he came home and he lost his whole semester, right? And so that was a tough thing to watch him to go through. So, having, for those that sort of, I did my time in the military, then I decided I'm going to go back to school, right? What a weird concept to think about after you just spent 10 plus years in the military.
Yeah. There's all this skibbity riz and all that kind of stuff you got to catch up with all you youngsters. It's tough because you go from being the guy in charge of a lot of people and a lot of the things that they own, right? Is there anybody in here that's ever held like a leadership position in the military or in general? And you've got to be responsible for, in the military, you have to be responsible for people's like finances, right? Because if they're in debt, China comes over and says, "Hey, bud, want to clear that debt? Tell me some secrets," kind of thing. So you got to make sure that they're good. And then you come to school and every single success or failure is yours and yours alone, right? You're not a leadership and your subordinates are no longer the ones getting you in trouble. If you don't get the grade, that's all your fault. Every single point of it. Sometimes you have things like family and all that kind of stuff, but there's no one else except for you. So it goes from being very involved to being very almost feeling lonely. Like I don't have anybody else to kind of push me, or I don't have an example to set because that example is for myself. So that was kind of a really big kicker for myself. Something I had to get used to is that self-motivation, not just being the example for somebody else to follow, or you keep your stuff straight because everybody else has to keep their stuff straight. You do it because you're supposed to get that grade. And then time management in the military, they tell you what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, what you're going to wear, when you're going to be there, where you're going to be. Now you sign up for your schedule and it's just like, what time is it? Thursdays and Tuesdays, or is it Mondays and Wednesdays? And oh, I have a class on Friday, but I thought what? So a lot of that, just getting used to that kind of process. So that was my initial expectation, or not expectation, but my initial shock coming in, young people, and I got to manage myself all of a sudden. So.
Yeah, I can't speak about the question, but I can speak about that I wish I did. So I was extremely immature coming out of high school. It wasn't until really senior year of college where I really grew up in a sense. And at that point, if I was in a standard college, you're too late to figure out what you want to do with your life after it. So I think there's a huge advantage from going to the military and then going back to college, because at that point you should have a general idea of what you're passionate about in life and what you want to study. So you can have a lot more direction and drive to accomplish that, rather than not really wanting to know what you do when you grow up. So speaking from the flip side, it's something that I wish I had.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I probably wouldn't have made it through college fresh out of high school myself. Thankfully, the Marine Corps kind of set me straight. For me, the transition was especially difficult. I had planned on staying in until they kicked me out for old age. That was my goal. I loved everything about it. Unfortunately, kind of got banged up, and they sent me on my way. So I had just lost sort of my whole identity from the age of 18 through 28. I had been a Marine, put on the camis, wore the dress blues, did all the things. That's who I was. And so then to leave that and show up and be a 28-year-old freshman with 18-year-old freshmen who are showing up in like Pikachu onesies and all that stuff. At first, it frustrated me. I was that angry veteran guy for probably my first semester, and it was this continuous thing, and a lot of what you were sharing of. I got to make sure I'm back home, spend time with my wife and kids. I got to make sure that I'm going to school. I understand how college works because I think there's a lot of college prep that may happen towards the end of high school that I wasn't paying attention to, and that changed a lot in the 10 years that I was in. And so I didn't understand. Like I went school supply shopping before I went, and my wife's like, "Wait, maybe just wait till you get your syllabus." And I was like, "No, I need a notebook for everything, like a pen." And so there was all these this difference, and so the cognitive dissonance that was there was super real. And thankfully, I found some identity as I got involved with the nonprofit that I eventually worked for and did those things, but keeping myself on track again, the individual responsibility that exists, and feeling like because I'm an adult at that point, because I'm a 28-year-old, like I should know these things. And so I didn't want to go look for resources. Like there's some, you can only take up to, or you can like opt out of a final if you're taking more than two in one day. I didn't know that I had 4 finals on one day. And somebody was like, you could actually talk and get those rescheduled. Like, God, I wish I knew that because 4 finals in a day is a beat down. But yeah, so it's all those things and navigating this experience. And I wasn't here for a collegiate experience. I wasn't interested in Greek life or any really of the extracurriculars. I wanted to come in and get my degree and move on with my life. And so even being able to connect initially with my peer students was difficult from the age gap and just my mindset. But I continuously challenged that, made some really good friends that helped me challenge that, and I think I did really well. Probably starting my second semester here.
So y'all made it sound kind of depressing. But so I want to flip the question a little bit because I kind of got sad for a minute and I started to feel bad for y'all. But what was it about your military experience that made you a good student? Not a challenged student, but a good student. As you sat in a class and you were sitting next to that 18-year-old wearing Pikachu pajamas, what did you get that they didn't get?
I think introspection comes very, very quickly after you realize, okay, I've got to get my stuff together pretty quickly. And so then for me, you start visiting moments in your military career that were hard, that were like really hard. Staying up for 24 to 48 hours straight, doing something, having some random meeting, getting called in at 1 o'clock in the morning, or maybe you get 2 hours of sleep, you got to wake up, you got to do something again. Whatever the case is, I always would visit that and be like, okay, college can't be too crazy. So I was able to reach back, pull in old, not necessarily bad experiences, but tough experiences and say, college isn't that bad. Okay, so let's take a couple extra, let's take an hour, let's take 30 minutes, let's go over this stuff again. Um, and it's just that remembering the grit you had to do when you had to do things you didn't want to do, and this is something that you want to do now. So apply that same grit, that same persistence, um, and then being adaptable to any environment. I've moved around a lot as a kid, and then even while I was in the military, I moved around to about 4 duty stations and then deployed 3 times. A lot of movement, a lot of movement. Uh, there's an acronym and it's survival. And the A in survival is act like the natives. And the thing about it is you apply that in situations in the military, you apply that situations in college, and allows you to be a lot more of a humble recipient to a plethora of groups. You don't just canalize yourself into just hanging out with vets or hanging out with IT or whatever. It allows you to relate to people in a whole bunch of different ways because you used to have to, and now it's I get to. So it's that mind shifts there. So that kind of helped me out.
Yeah, I think for me, the easiest thing, I showed up to class, all of my classes. It didn't matter. Like that discipline of like, I have a place to be. I was on campus probably 30 minutes prior to my class starting. I wasn't afraid of sitting up front. I sat there and I took notes. And something I realized, because in the military, we write in like block letters. All of our forms are all block letters. And so I spent 10 years writing in all caps. And when initially my first semester, I was writing in all caps and I couldn't retain any information. I was like, what is going on? I have to go back and read all these notes that I wrote because it was just sort of second nature. And I started writing in cursive. And that ability, like for me to flip back and like kind of focus a little bit more on what I was writing, showing up to class every day, finding and adapting to something to make class easier, i.e. writing in cursive. And I just started, like college started getting a lot easier. And I think over my entire time getting my degree, I think I missed 12 classes total, like not 12 days, but like of all the classes, 12 of them. And it was just that discipline. Like this is my job. I was getting the VA, the GI Bill. They were paying, like I was getting that. And so my job was to come to class and pass my classes and get a degree and get out of here. And so I think that, that's what set me up for success. Also, the introspection side. I remember my first couple weeks, there was a leadership. There was like an email to come join this student leadership group, and I thought to what do these kids know? What are these guys? What are these kids like? What are they going to be able to teach me that I don't already know? And I started talking to a couple of the people that were on that, and I realized real early, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what your experiences are, it's all relative. And there are people that have really great nuggets of wisdom that can support you throughout whatever your experience is, regardless of how old they are, regardless of their history. So it was just introspection, adaptability, and just accountability.
Oh, there was a question in the room? Oh, yep, go ahead.
But that's just not something you so often be supportive of him so that he can within.
So I'm gonna throw it up in the air and whoever catches it.
Um, we like to live a life with no regrets, right? It's probably what he's thinking as well, is he wants to try again. Supporting that mindset, right? Because as family, we tend to want people to be successful. We want them to be in the safest place possible. But running for a very long time to your a friend of mine called it rocking chair syndrome. You don't want to be 70 years old on a rocking chair saying, I wish I could have, should have, would have. So keep that in mind too, right? We want to nestle them, we want to keep them safe, but we also want them to live the life without regret, right? So let them take that path. So that's probably the best thing I could say for that.
Yeah, and I would just to add on to that is, I mean, some people just have a calling, to do it. I initially didn't have it that way. I didn't even know West Point was a thing before I got recruited for lacrosse. So I showed up at the gates when they had me for a recruiting visit. My dad convinced me to go, and I saw the guards, and I turned to him and I said, "What the hell is this?" So didn't really understand it, but really it was a great thing for me. And while it might not be the most traditional path that most of Americans take nowadays, is the standard to go to college and whatnot to set you up for success, what it does on the rear end for the rest of your life, and everything that is provided to you to support you through it is, I mean, I don't think you can really put a number on it. And I think that the lessons you learn while you're in are some really impactful ones.
Yeah, all accurate. Just love him. Ask questions. Make sure that his headspace is in the right spot too. But don't like interrogate him. But just make sure he's understanding. But beyond that, support him and love him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Listen to the enlisted. That's all you got to do. All right. In seriousness, no, it's when you become an officer, you're automatically going to be in charge of millions of dollars worth of things and about 30 people. And the worst thing that you can do is come in and try to change everything and think that you know everything. All I can say is humility pays off. And that even goes for an older enlisted guy like myself. Learn, learn where you can learn, right? Learn how to learn what you're doing. That's the best thing that you can do. Stay humble. You're going to have to implement policy at some point. Your goal is to support the commander's intent, but learn, right? Learn. And your guys will work to make, or guys or gals, will work towards supporting you. So yeah, be humble.
Yeah, I would say definitely when you're showing up as a butter bar, stay humble. You know, you learn from. I had a smoke that had been in for about 20 years, and he didn't listen to a thing I said the first month I showed up. So you have to earn respect, and it's going to give you a lot of lessons in leadership that'll carry you through the rest of your life. And just understanding how to get people to accomplish a task or a mission at hand, whether it be in the military or in business on the backside. So there's a lot of lessons that assimilate between the both.
Yeah, always seek self-improvement. That's one of the Marine Corps foundations. And so you're supposed to know yourself, seek self-improvement. Know that like there's nothing new under the sun. That's something General Mattis used to say quite a bit whenever he was commanding general. So almost anything that you're going to encounter, there's probably been a fight there before. Becoming a master of that craft, he was known as the warrior monk because he read so much, and so he knew why armies failed. You don't have to be at that level, but just know that there's going to always be additional information out there. If you give it your all, you try your hardest, it's going to end. That's the other thing. The hikes end, the IT sessions end, the smoke sessions of your army, like it all ends eventually. Just keep going until it does, or until you stop. Like you might pass out, you might need medical attention at some point. But that's okay too. Pushing to that level is perfectly fine. But yeah, just try to become the master of your craft. If you're new, know that you don't know everything. Even if you've read all the books and you've mastered it, like TTPs, tactics and procedures change constantly, and the folks that have actually employed those probably know how to do it better. And then as you work your way up, you're there to be a liaison. You're there to help folks and as an officer liaise to the company commander and all the way up. So just yeah, be humble.
I want to go back to a question I had that kind of builds on hers, and that is one of the things we talk about, at least on the academic side, is support services for our military focused students or whatever that might be. And so you all had sort of three kind of different experiences with college and support, because obviously one of you went to a military academy, so the support services for military students is a little different, but they're support services. So what is it from a support and support you didn't get from the university environment that you think, wow, this was great, and wow, I wish I had this?
I'd say it's a little difficult to answer because I feel like the university does provide a pretty good amount of support. I think one improvement, maybe an add-on. This is something I'm a knuckle dragger, right? I'm an oxygen thief. I'm not exactly the smartest crayon in the knife block, right? So um, I need a little bit of time, right? First struggle that I had, first semester, out the gate, business calculus. Who knows how fun that is, right? Boo. It'd been years since I've taken any kind of class. So it took me a while, a lot of YouTube, Khan Academy, like just a lot of just grit. But one improvement I think might be an option. The tutoring service here is pretty awesome. But if there's like maybe an add-on training or like, okay, who's willing to deal with veterans to be able to be like, okay, they're going to need a little extra patience. They're probably not going to get it. They're probably going to need some visuals. And so, colors, right? By number. that kind of sets up the tutoring session to be able to be like, okay, the veteran can check, yes, I would like to be recognized as a veteran in this tutoring session. The tutor could be like, okay, I'm willing to teach a veteran and have the patience. They have a training of some sort that would probably be very beneficial, get us from point A to point B quicker.
Yeah, I would probably say as far as West Point goes, there's probably a little bit too much support. They from like Saturday morning white glove dust inspections and weekly, daily uniform inspections, haircut inspections, the whole nine. I mean, it really it's there's one goal in mind is it's always to lead America's sons and daughters, right? And so that's ingrained in everyone who's attending's mindset. And if you're really not going to assimilate and get on board, then it's probably not the spot for you. They have support to ensure that that happens, and whether that's walking hours on the quad, in full dress uniform on Saturdays for being 5 minutes late to class or anything like that. But it's it's all there for the taking. If I was blessed enough to get in there, if I sent my transcript there without being recruited, they probably would have laughed and thrown it in the trash from high school. So it was the best thing for me. I had all the support in the world to become who I am today. So I couldn't be more thankful for it.
So I was fortunate enough. I was actually a work study at the student veteran office whenever my first semester, and that helped me understand like the GI Bill process, when to put your letters in, and how to do that. And so I had that down. But like you, like picking classes for the first time during orientation, and then like the I don't know if it still does, but it crashes on orientation day. It did for me. And so the site was down, and then when it finally opened back up, there was no more orientation, and I had like the weeks leading up to the first class to try to figure out if I'd picked the right classes, if I was doing things correctly. That was a little bit of a frustration. I think there's a student veteran association here as well. I was somewhat involved with that initially, and then kind of stepped away. But I think the tutoring, those things, but an additional almost transition into college type of session for veterans that helps them, one, understand GI Bill benefits, the Hazelwood Act, those things would be really beneficial. But then how to get the resources, where to go, explaining how the GI Bill works over the summer. So that's the other side. Like I took Maymester, and that's where I finally passed BCal, because I failed it my first time as well. And the first stats I failed. Those are the two classes I failed. But I took both of those in the subsequent Maymesters. And if you're ever struggling with anything, take a Maymester, because that's your sole focus for like 4 hours a day all week. And then most of the time when you're in those classes, you're with like non-traditional students, your veterans, or like student athletes who need to get their grades up. And so those Maymasters are really great. It's your only focus, and you can pass those really difficult classes in just like 3 weeks. So yeah, I think just providing that support, boosting it out a little bit. I know we're a yellow ribbon school here, so we take all that. But I think we could be a little more purposeful in how UNT maybe partners with the different organizations and gets the word out. This is a great start.
So now we're going to shift a little bit later in the process. One thing I've caught through all of this, if some of you haven't caught it, is whether it was military or not, the concept of being a non-traditional student, not 18 to 23, plays a part in the same experiences, right? So some of these stories I hear from 35-year-old students who come to my office and are like, these are the challenges I'm dealing with. I'm having trouble on this group project because I got this 18-year-old over here who, would rather be making TikToks than focus on the project. There's just a different level of focus, right? So one of the things we also run into with some of our older students, military students, and actually some of our foreign students, right, is internship placement. And a lot of times that comes into play because when companies are hiring interns, they're looking for somebody that's 22 years old and in college and basically has the only experience they have is probably, maybe working at McDonald's and they took a supply chain class because they're thinking about hiring that person and then for the intern and then hiring them permanently. So they're looking at that as a career investment. So now you got somebody that's walked in. I've got 10 years of logistics military experience and now I'm pursuing a degree and I have all this knowledge. Well, I don't want to hire you as an intern because I'm not going to hire you when you're done with your internship. So I'm just not going to hire you in the first place. I'll take Billy over here, who's 18 and doesn't know what the heck he's, what two sticks are, and just because I know I can mold him and channel him. So we see that same kind of scenario with our military students. We see the same scenario with our older students, and we see this likewise with our foreign students, because the foreign students come over here and there could be a job placement issue, and so they don't want to hire them as well. So that challenge of sort of being a non-traditional student and then getting into an internship and trying to prove to a company, yeah, I'm 35 years old, but I'm willing to learn something I may not even know.
UNC requires you to have a internship before you graduate, which is a great thing because it's a great excuse. So first thing, if you're really struggling, whenever you're writing your cover letters, you can say, look, I'm searching for my graduation requirement, which is an internship. I like what your company stands for, or I like the product that your company does. I like whatever it is that you like about the company, highlight it in the cover sheet. And let them know, hey, look, I'm a little older, but this is a requirement, and I do like what you guys stand for, right? So number one, use it as an excuse. Number two, I applied to Lockheed Martin 7 times before I got accepted. So it wasn't just like, oh, I'm amazing, pick me up. And they were like, sounds good. It was grueling work. So look for the jobs where the job's hanging out for a while. Maybe it's been on the market for a month. And never overestimate your significance. You're older, or if you're not from the country, or you're just trying to start something new, be real with what it is that you're trying to do and understand that sometimes it's a foot in the door versus trying to start off in the C-suite, right? I got the internship and I love where I worked with Lockheed Martin, and I accepted a lower position. But with that, I could see from the bottom and see what it is that my skills translate into, to now I can apply for higher level jobs. But I'm already in the door. And with most companies, what they'll do is they hire internally. They like internal a lot more because the policies. You've already passed. If there's a drug screen, they know you're integral. They have a direct reference to your manager. So foot in the door is not, it may seem like a delay. I mean, come on, you're already a little older. What's another year? What's another 2 years, right? To be working with the company you want to work for. And so that was my mindset. And it's also a couple of mindsets of other friends who've gotten into the places that they want to go. Be humble. It always goes back to being humble. Start where you can, but start where you want to start. Okay.
While I was getting out of the military, I had a different internship experience. So I leveraged the Hiring Our Heroes program to get an internship. As I said before, I was trying to get into finance. I always loved numbers. I felt it spoke to me. So there's a couple academy grads that launched a business called Chamberlain Advisors. So they placed me with another company, and I worked with them as a financial analyst. It was a remote role that I was doing down in Georgetown, Texas. Found out pretty quickly they didn't have the headcount to bring me on. I was just there to really run reports, as the guy who recently took over just needed some assistance. So I did what anyone else would do, and I quickly started applying to roles online. And what I found is it is difficult, but everyone's so encapsulated by trying to find those Fortune 500 companies. And I think that what you find is I never thought I'd end up at Shoppa's material handling, and it's been the biggest blessing to me. It's been an extreme challenge, but I've also found a company that understands the value that I bring from the experiences that I've had in the military and at college. And I'm able to leverage that. So I would implore you, if you are having trouble, maybe widen your net and cast it to some companies that may not interest you from the get-go, but as anyone says, it's all an experience, and it's going to continue to pay off for you in the future.
Yeah, so I predated the internship requirement for graduation whenever I went through. So I didn't have an internship. I actually kind of avoided them because I didn't see the value in them at that point. But like Paul said, widening your net. When I was introducing myself, I worked for CubeSmart for 5 years, and we used to always joke like nobody ever wakes up as like a 16, 17-year-old kid. It's like, someday I'm going to work in self-storage. No, but the amount of roles that were there are incredible. Same thing with Shoppas. Like most of these businesses that you pass by, even if you're on 35 going past Alliance and you see all those big buildings, they're going to have a full suite of professionals supporting that entire organization. There are roles there for you to have that you can still be successful in. And so, yeah, widen your net. You're going to be 1 in 1,000 going for Google, where you might be 1 in 10 going for a smaller organization that's going to really value and put you to work and give you the experience you're looking for. And then I'm also just real quick gonna pimp Shoppas. We got internships coming up and available, so check us out, look into it, and see if there's something that might fill that need that you got.
That's a good plug. Go ahead.
Yes. I took the job nobody wanted. And that's the biggest thing, is like getting the foot in the door. I wanted to work for Lockheed Martin. I've loved what the products that they pushed out since I was a kid. Like I had a notebook full of all the aircraft that they built. And Lockheed was very close to my heart because when we're on the X and I've got a C-130 floating above me, making sure that nobody hurts me, that's a Lockheed product. Or whenever a F-16 comes over and does a show of force at 100 feet off the ground, that's a Lockheed product, right? And so for me, it's very heartstring pulling, right? So I was like, I want to work at this company. I like what they stand for. And I mean, I haven't been wrong. I've been working there for 2.5 years, and everything that they say is what they, so what Paul was saying was cast that wide net, but if you love something, go for it, So that's what changed, was like, get me in the door, and then, we'll figure out the rest from there.
Yeah, and I'll share a story with that because he was my neighbor and he told me the story, right? Is that I know he took a job there because he said, I just want my foot in the door. I'll take whatever if it means I'm sweeping the floor, I'll sweep the floor. But I know for a fact that once he got there, he proved himself and proved his value to the organization. I think some of our other speakers have talked about that. When you get into an organization, prove your value, that you are valuable to that organization. Once he proved his value, they found a spot for him because they wanted to keep him. It wasn't like, oh, we don't have an entry level spot, which they didn't because he's overqualified. They found a spot for him because they found him valuable to the organization. So, and I think like Wally Devereaux talked about that with Southwest Airlines. If you came to that talk, right, he started off at the very beginning, basically doing tickets, right? You just continue to just work your way through the system, show your value, and they won't get rid of you. They'll keep you, right? Okay, so any questions, any more questions? I'm going to keep rolling with my list, right? So hold on. I'm old, so I have to switch glasses. So the next thing is really about what would you tell your kids? Like, so your kid comes in, and would you tell your kid, go to the military, then go to college, go to college, go to the military, stay away from the military, don't go to college? What would you advise your kid that's, let's say, 16 years old and about to make that decision? Because I can tell you, when I got to the Marines, because I got to put the Army guys aside, right? My dad was a Marine, and I got two brothers that was a Marine, right? So, but one of my brothers, when he came home and told my mom that he enlisted without my parents knowing, right? It wasn't a good day in my house, right? And so, but I can tell you the same thing. If my brother hadn't gone to the Marines, he would have never finished college. The Marines straightened him up. And so, what would you tell your kid?
I had a good time as an enlisted infantryman. But I think what coming to college has taught me is that, what is your intent? So if he wants to be a whatever college grad, and that's what he wants to do. That's or she, my daughter as well, then that's what she'll do. He or she'll do. If they want to join the the army, I would highly, or the service as a whole, I would highly suggest the college degree first. Because let's be honest, officer life, it's just that much better. But you know, enlisted route is fun, officer life is better. But if they wanted to go either way, like it's intent. Are you, you know, do you have a plan or anything like that? So go to college. Don't want to do that. If you're going to join the service, get a degree first. And if you don't do that, don't die. So
I would probably just sit down and talk through the entire plan, you know, and just in today's society, everyone makes quick snap decisions, and don't really think about the second and third order effects after that. So I would just think and look forward towards. I have two girls, a 9-month-old and a 3-year-old, and um, it is difficult for women in the military. I'll be completely candid about it as well. So there's a little bit of a gender where I would want to keep my girls away from that. But at the end of the day, if they've thought it through and it's a passion of theirs and it's something that's going to make them happy, I'm going to support them 100% of the time. So
Yeah, girl dad as well. I've got 3 daughters, 15, 13, and 10. And it would be a much more serious, in-depth conversation, just because of the struggles that our women in the services face. I think from a standpoint, I think going to school first, going in as an officer, even if they're not even going to go in as an officer, going to school first and getting that collegiate experience is really beneficial. But then also, like Paul said, if that's really their passion, that's where they're at, and they're really driven, I wouldn't stand in their way. I was a like 5'11", 130-pound band geek when I decided I wanted to join the Marines. And I think my parents had their own reservations if I would make it through boot camp or not, as did I. Like I remember one of the first questions I asked my recruiter is if it's as hard as they make it look in the documentaries, because I remember watching Making a Marine Paris Island, where they would follow the female recruits through Marine Corps boot camp. I was like, man, these chicks are tougher than I am. Like I can't do this. But no, I would really challenge them and make sure that the plan's well thought out. But at the end of the day, love them and support them.
All right, last question is, I like to do this with people in your situation, sort of who between, let's say I got out of high school, went to the military, went to the academy, whatever you went to, here you are now. Give a shout out to somebody. Who would you give a shout out to that made a difference in that path?
wow, put me on the spot. He wants me to say him. uh yeah, yeah. Venmo me $5. Um it's a it was a former soldier, uh Sergeant Harrison Anderson, younger than me, less time in the army than me, not as many deployments as me. And I had a pretty harsh leadership style when I was coming up. I used to eat boys up pretty good. Um, and he saw me doing that one day, and he was like, "Hey, man, if you treat a man like a man, he tends to act like one." And from there, it was more than just looking at my leadership style or lack thereof at the moment. It was more about my ability to take advice from someone younger, someone with I determined had less experience, going back to what you had said earlier. Um, there's a great quote that he said, even a stopped clock is right twice a day. Right. And it's true. You never know what you're going to pick up from any source. Anybody's a resource. So, um, shout out to former Sergeant Harrison Anderson. He's still alive. He's just a civilian. Let's just make sure we clarify that. Yeah. Great man, graduate of OU, boo. But you know,
So I was introduced to Jimmy through a man named Hal Hawk. He owns Crown Battery up in Fremont, Ohio. major supplier for industrial batteries and SLI as well. So his daughter was best friends with my wife growing up. They live right down the road. I had already accepted when I was getting out of the Army and during the transition period, I had accepted an offer at a small boutique M&A firm focused in downstream energy down in Austin, Texas. Already accepted it, got my laptop, was going to start in 2 weeks. And we were up in Ohio just visiting my wife's family, and I got into a conversation with Hal, and he said, "Hey, you're getting out of the Army, right? Send me your resume." And I said, "Well, Hal, I already have a job." And he's a older gentleman, and really he just insisted. So he said he had someone he wanted me to talk to. Unbeknownst to me, he was meeting Jimmy and Preston Shoppa the next day for dinner, and I guess he showed them my resume, and immediately Jimmy and Preston were like, "Yeah, oh, he's hired." And so Jimmy gave me a call, asked me to come up and visit. He initially said he'd fly me up there, but it was about a 2 hour drive from Austin, so I kind of should have seen the type of guy Jimmy is. But I ended up coming up really after some reservations. I told my wife, "Hey, I have this M&A gig. It's going to be awesome. It's exactly what I've asked for in finance. Why would I want to go up there and sell forklifts?" Right? Because on the face value, that's exactly what it is, but it's really much deeper than that, and it's a much more complex organization. So I ended up going up, and I'm so happy I did. And I owe a lot to Hal for pushing me to do that, even though I thought I was pretty convinced I knew what I wanted to do. So it was a complete reversal, but I could not be happier to be where I am, and I owe a lot of it to Hal. So
I'm not trying to cop out, but I'm going to shout out two folks. One was my XO. He was my officer in charge as I was getting out. As I was getting medically retired and my decision came down, he fully supported me in my entire transition. Again, his wife helped me write my application letter here. I was required. He wanted to know where I was moving to before I got out. I was to be accepted into college before I got out. He had all of these things that he was requiring me to do when you get out, and the military does not have leaders like that. Like they're few and far between to find somebody that cares that much. He said, if you need to go house hunting, don't even take your leave because you can sell it back whenever you get out. Just let me know and you can go to Texas. Like whatever it is you need to be successful, do it, because 6 months after you get out, you're not going to get a call from some Lance Corporal saying, "Hey, Sergeant Smith, Lance Corporal so-and-so from Marine Corps, how you doing today?" Like you're gone, you're done, and the Marine Corps is over. And so you need to make sure what you're doing in your life that you're set up for success. And so really helped shape my transition mindset. And then another is a fellow UNT student when I was working at the Student Veterans Center, David Smith. He graduated a year before me, but he was putting in his paperwork, and I saw Marine Corps, and I said, "Oh, what unit?" And he said 3-7. That was my first unit. So we had that in common. He served there after I did. He was younger than me, one deployment, but he was the one that really checked my grumpy veteran status. He was like, "Dude, nobody likes that. Like other veterans don't like to see it. Their professors don't care, and the students aren't going to like it either. Like, just stop. Like, why are you so upset? Why do you care that they're in Pikachu onesie?" I'm like, I actually don't. I'm just not used to it. It's different, so that's abrasive to me, and it felt disrespectful almost. He's like, "Nobody cares. It's not. Nobody's being disrespected by Pikachu." I was like, valid. So yeah, Colonel Courtney Boston and David Smith, Corporal, United States Marine Corps, retired.
Dreaming Pikachu. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. First thing I just want to say is, one, thank you for your service, but to the country and also to you today, to be here to share these stories was very enlightening. I try to tell the students before the event that there's something to be learned, whether you're military connected or focused or not. There was something to be learned, and I believe there was. If you don't, then you weren't paying attention. So I appreciate that immensely. We thank you very much for everything that you've done for us and continue to do. And so we give that a little applause.